All the green of May and June has become food for us and for the future soil and microbes for future food that's growing in the garden. We went from really dry period at the beginning of the month to really, really wet very fast. Lots of water has come down, and that has changed a lot of things in the garden. My name is Haley, and if you're new here, whether you found this space because of the art offerings I have online or in other ways, welcome. I am creating these monthly garden vlogs because about 2 years ago I decided to devote a good deal of my creative energy and time into growing some of our food in our rental space here in North Carolina. And I want to document this journey through the months, as that actually really helps me as I move forward. So let's take a look at some of the things that have shifted in the garden in this month of July. The sweet potatoes continue to grow quite well despite the shifts in weather and wetness. They're just happy little guys in their grow bags. They won't be harvested for several more months, probably even in October. So they're going to take their times in their grow bags. These are just a few grow bags with cucumbers. There's actually 4 plants in there. You can see the first round of one set is dying back, but my market mores continue to do quite well, though I do have a second round of cucumbers begun as well. Definitely learning a lot, continuing to learn. My experiments don't always work. This could have been really cool, I think, if I had just planted in the ground rather than the shallow pot with these beans. It's right under the roof area enough where the rain doesn't hit it the same way, and I just didn't keep up with the watering well enough. It wanted to be watered like 3 or 4 times a day because it's just a 6-inch pot there. So I did get some beans off of it. We got to eat them and see that we do like the variety, so I will try them again. They were Cherokee black bean, which you can eat off the pod or you can shell. And then there are the miscommunications. My husband asked if he could help cut back some of the overgrown wildflowers that are dying back with the drought. I said sure. I came back out and he had pulled up one part of my calendula flowers that were here for 2 years. So there's that. I'll plant more seeds. This kale plant became a non-priority along the way and got just kind of crunched up by caterpillars. So there you have it. But look at this. This is lemongrass. I'm really looking forward to pulling some of that for some different dishes. We've had plenty of beans for fresh eating for the 2 of us especially, and also to put in my dog's food. This is the purple bean plant. It's looking a little rough. Again, trying to do organic gardening here. There's something creeping up here from down low. Could be some sort of disease thing in the soil. I'm a little unclear about that, what that is, but I saw a little bit of it last year too. But they still continue to produce. Even beyond that. So yeah, every day there's a few more beans to come out, so every few days we have beans with our meal, and this one did a nice little wrap around this year. It's kind of fun. I'm definitely going to need to do some pesto making and freezing up some cubes of those for the winter too. Now this one is a cucamelon. This is an accidental placement. I didn't intend to keep it here, but it went from like not doing much to then taking over, and look at these tiny little fruits. Oh my god. They're so cute, and they're just like these delicious little snacks. And they're all over this plant, and he just kind of vined up around my chair, and then up along the window here as well. And it's just a line of little cucamelons. Here I have the plant starts in my outdoor greenhouse that I did this past month, and I'm getting ready to pot those up probably today, maybe tomorrow. And these are more zucchini, squash, and melon. For one more final push on those. The second round of eggplant here, since my first one got eaten up by fleas, although I do have 1 eggplant on those, and I need to get these out in the sun so they get the last of this nice summer heat and sun. The fresh herbs are one of my favorite things. Oh my gosh, and they've just been doing great. Dry or wet, they seem to just do all right. I've got them kind of scattered all over, but quite a few here. And then this green stalk, of course, had the beans, which I did get bush beans off of this regularly. Had I planted more than 1 tier, it might have been a remarkable enough amount for the 2 of us. But I just did 1 tier, so like it ended up being between 6 and 10 plants, I think. It would have taken maybe a week or so to gather enough for a meal. But it gave us some, and we were able to add it to the other beans we had, so that was kind of nice. And then these tomatoes, of course, are still doing pretty good, though. That one needs to come off there. It's a little bit split. Okay, so these beans were an experiment in a pot. It was one of the green stalk tiers, actually. And they didn't grow so great at first. They were kind of slow taking off. But look at these. Oh my gosh, this is nutso. I've never grown anything like them. They're not terribly tall at this point, but it's still giving me all these extremely long beans that are just really weird. And they're good. They're good to eat, so very fun. I'd like to see a nice, like an archway or something of those one year. That would be a lot of fun. Now this was an extra tomato we had. We just put it in the ground over here. It's a German green because it's one of our favorite slicers, and he's hanging in there. It's actually one of the strongest tomato varieties I've planted so far, and most delicious too. They stay green. You eat them green. But this one fell over at a certain point, and you can see here, looks like the beginning of probably maybe some blight. It'll take this plant out eventually. That's just a problem we have here. There's that other issue, the leaf spot. Maybe it's that, I'm not sure. Because my other tomatoes look like blight. This looks maybe a little different. So I'll be looking that up here soon, just to learn a little bit more about what it possibly is. But I like to kind of leave plants, especially like this when they're isolated, to learn from the process of what that's going to do to the plant, what it looks like at the beginning, how it transgresses, how the plant does as it's resisting it, and what have you. And then here we have my peppers. Here's some bell peppers right here, the first three. We've harvested several off of these. They're quite good. We've got some poblano and Anaheim peppers down here. I've harvested those recently. The serranos are doing good. My potted jalapeno did not make it, but that's okay. We have lots of jalapeno from last year. They're in season and easy to get in the store. And I have another one over here too that hopefully is going to give me some fruit very soon. Hot peppers here in the front, and then in the back I've got more bell peppers. They're growing really nicely. The flowers are starting to kick in with this new rain. And I thought I saw some little baby peppers starting in there, so looking forward to those. Now the melons, my watermelon and cantaloupe, they did not seem to succumb to the squash vine borer like so many of my other plants did. Here's a watermelon, a black mountain watermelon, baby mountain watermelon, something like that. They don't get very big. It'll get a little bigger than this, maybe about not quite twice that size, but they're quite tasty. We had some last year. This is a butternut squash. I still don't have a squash on it yet. I'm hopeful, but I don't know. This one has struggled to grow a bit. But over here we have the cantaloupe, and you can see in here I've hammocked it up. This is a nice sized cantaloupe for our garden. We had one of these last year. It was good. I'm hopeful that the rain doesn't make this fall too soon, because it had started to turn to that beige, that ripening effect it gets on the skin. And I really would like to eat it right off the vine. That would be awesome. But that plant has done really particularly well. Whereas I had this gorgeous summer squash over here. If you watched last month's video, you might remember it. It actually came up over onto the tree, had a spaghetti squash hanging off the tree, but I knew it wasn't going to make it because the squash vine borer had gotten into multiple parts of the vine and just took it out this month. One of the issues I had this month was with the dryness and then the fast, heavy wetness. I think that's what it is. A lot of my homemade stakes and trellises made with posts that were either thin or possibly brittle to begin with, or that were left over from last year, so they're in their second year run. Several of those have broken on me this year. I did not have that trouble last year. So like these ones here on the beans, we just left it up from last year, and I think that was the problem. We probably should have just built it with fresh branches this year. So it toppled over at the top a bit. It's still hanging there, still making beans. I might try to come up with a way to lift that a little bit. We'll see. But it's not quite as pretty as it was. Seems to be the name of the game this month. Celery in here, I harvested some of this and froze for winter stews and soups. The tomatillos keep giving me tomatillos every day. I find that with mine, mostly for some reason, they drop before they're entirely ripe. So I put them in a paper bag in the kitchen, and they ripen up, and then I freeze them until I'm ready to cook with them. Here is my little eggplant that came to be despite the massive amount of flea beetle damage that happened to this plant, which you can see some of it here in the older leaves. The flea beetles, they're done, I guess, by the major heat of the summer, about this time, midsummer. but these top leaves don't have that flea beetle damage happening, so doing well. This is the same deal with this one, another variety. I don't have a fruit on it yet, but I'm just happy because I had the same trouble last year, but the plant did not kick back and do as well after the flea beetle damage. So it's nice to see that these ones are a little stronger. And here, this is just the massive tree marigold. I don't think they're supposed to grow that tall. He toppled over too in this rain. The stems are bent. He's starting to grow back up. I don't know, I'm tempted to just kind of leave it wild for a little bit, let it flower some more. And then my cucumbers up here, these are probably mostly done. They're my pickling cucumbers. I think I pulled the last of these off of the plant this week. I'm gonna clear out this bed, get it ready for some fall crops. Oh, and then this was a late start tomato. I'll show you more of my other tomatoes here in a minute, but this one, I think it might be a beefsteak. And I did it last minute. Put him out here well after the other ones, maybe a month and a half later than the others, and he's doing quite well. So he's going to give me fruit a little bit later than some of my others, which might be nice because actually the tomatoes, depending on our weather, can live well into the fall here. So you can have fresh tomatoes for quite a while in our climate. This is my prized kale. It's huge. I made a kale kraut for the first time, a smoked kale kraut. It's delicious. It might be my favorite kraut I've made so far. Another late start tomato. This one's not quite as big as the other. Okay, so here is my beautiful acorn squash. This plant all the way around the bottom, the top there, and actually here down into the window well. There was even flowers in there. I got one acorn squash off of it, but I took it slightly early, just, I don't know, a few days ago. The squash vine borer finally got it there. The interesting thing about this is that this plant grew big and strong really fast. And this may be a variety, since it's a winter squash, that they're not as apt to get. I'm not sure. I'm learning about that. However, there's another acorn squash down on the end. And even though the squash vine borer got over here into one part of the main stem, close to that first fruit, so much of this plant is still doing okay. I'm leaving it for now because I'm just curious. Because I know the borer is done in the garden. And so I'm curious how this plant is going to pan out, if possibly that other acorn squash and maybe another one or two might make it off of this particular plant. We'll see. I'm hopeful. Since it's already a strong plant, got another one here. I need to get it up off the ground, but yeah, that's so cool. And then it's been flowering down off of this. Oh yeah, there's another one back there even. So it'd be really nice to get those two off of this one plant for the winter as well. Okay, tomatoes. Oh yeah, yay. What a time for tomatoes. Here's a problem with those tomato cages. I actually just need to secure this. I'm going to do that today. It's fallen over. The tomatoes on the German greens are heavy. That's what this is. I've got two more German greens here. And they get tall. And we had the drought conditions, which gave us the blossom end rot. Not on this particular variety, but on all my other tomatoes pretty much. And then now we've had a lot of massive wetness. Too much, really. And so then some of these tomatoes and that, they get heavy and they want to split. So I'm picking a lot of things before they're ripe. Like some of these I may pull because the cherries really do tend to split. In fact, here's one that's no good. I'm just going to take that off of here. It was already mush. And here's one that's split. Some of the split ones are still good enough to eat, but some of these others that are turning but not split, I'll take in and let them ripen on the counter or in a paper bag. Now this, my tomato forest. If you watched last month's video, you may remember this. Those plants are massive. I have never had tomatoes like this in my life. And I'm feeling a little funny even about telling you how many tomato plants are in there because I will never plant this many that close again. It's my tomato forest. It's gorgeous, right? I think there are 14 tomato plants in this 4-foot by 8-foot bed. Now, I began gardening as a square foot gardener. Technically, you can put them that close. Did I keep up with the pruning as I should have? No. Do I have the right varieties? Probably not. I've got paste tomatoes, other indeterminate slicers, indeterminate paste tomatoes as well. Roma, San Marzano, Amish paste, gold medallion, and then some cherry tomatoes I stuck in there too. So even if I just left those ones out, it probably would be fine. They're massive. And I did the pruning on the bottom before, but it needs it again. And I've been hesitant to do much heavy pruning right now because it's raining every day. And you can already see on some of these, this is what the early blight, I think, looks like here in our zone when it starts to hit the tomatoes. I want to get those off there when I have something of a slightly dry few hours. But I don't want to spread it from plant to plant, though in this density that may be impossible to prevent. But anywho, every day I've been taking in just massive amounts of tomatoes, but they're coming off just like that. That one's a little small. That's a paste tomato. But again, I'm pulling them if they look like they're going to fall, even if they're green or just starting to turn. Certainly if they're red. If they're split, they're coming down, even if they're not quite ready, and finishing the ripening inside. And I freeze them, especially these paste ones, so that I'll be able to make sauce with these later. I've already gotten several gallon Ziploc bags full of tomatoes that are frozen, and then we've been eating them too. So it's just, every day has been quite an interesting mess to come out to here. But I mean, you can get in there and you can see there's all kinds of red stuff happening in there. I find them every day. So pretty awesome and amazing. I don't know how this is going to end up, if I'll be pulling some of these early, what the blight is going to do, how quick it'll do it. But still, we're getting a lot of tomatoes. Here you can see a whole bunch of green ones up here. It's amazing to think about these plants in the wild, like what they would do if left to their own. They'd just be on the ground, and so many of these would just go bad or get eaten by wildlife or what have you. And it's just kind of fascinating. So yeah, everything's a mess and wild and chaotic, beautiful chaos. These, oh, see, now this is really disappointing. I left this one on yesterday. Look at this. Oh, that breaks my heart. I left it on for one more day. I almost pulled it. My intuition was like, pull it. And I was like, oh, one more day. And something got it, probably overnight. Something ate it. And look at this one here. Wonder if they got up on the porch even to eat it. I don't see any more tomato hornworms, but I'm going to look for one today for sure. See how this one's turning a nice gold. That's a gold metal slicer. I'm looking forward to trying that too. So to fix that tomato cage, which I had doubled up here to make like a obelisk kind of thing, to fix that from toppling over with the weight of these tomatoes that are growing in the water, I did this last year. It worked really well for my potted plants. And basically I just used twine and binder clips on the edge of the pot in a couple places to hold it upright, and it just works like a charm. So really easy hack. So this is about what I've been getting every day or 2 days, I should say, probably for the last week and a half. Bring it in, sort out the ones that should be eaten fresh, need to be cut, freeze the ones that can be frozen. All right, so my hubby came up with a quick fix with some scrap stuff from a construction site he had laying around. To get these beans supported back up again, we just put in another post to help hold up that top area, and I'm going to fuss with that a little. Chicory's also popping up all over the yard, and we went ahead and pulled the rest of our onion harvest as well. Okay, so today we have not had rain, and we shouldn't have any more rain until, not tomorrow, but the day after. So I have started doing some aggressive pruning on these tomatoes while we have a little bit of a dry spell here. And you can see there's already kind of like a hole in here where I've pulled off some of those lower leaves that were dying off with the wetness. And I'm going to keep going. There's still a lot to do inside of the tomato forest. Thank you for coming along for my July garden update. If you are a gardener, have any comments, tips, curiosities, I'd love to hear. Feel free to leave a comment or be in touch. And, you know, gardening has quickly become one of my most beloved creative practices. So I just encourage you to take the time to spend and grow whatever it is that is calling your heart to create and engage with creation.